If you have ever sat in that airplane seat, buckled your seatbelt, and assumed everything around you was exactly as it appeared, stop for a moment and listen carefully. I get messages almost every week from passengers asking me the same thing. Maria, is flying really as safe and straightforward as the airlines make it seem? Just recently, a woman who had flown over 200 times in her life asked me that exact question. She had been boarding flights for 30 years, assuming she knew everything she needed to know. No red flags, no dramatic incidents, no reason to question what was happening around her. What shocked her was this. She had been completely unaware of what was really happening on every single one of those flights. She was not being careless. She was simply never told, and the airlines intended to keep it that way. New research and years of insider experience show that there are secrets the aviation industry actively trains its staff never to reveal to passengers. Information that affects your comfort, your safety, your health, and your money on every single flight you take. I'm Maria. I have spent over 15 years as a flight attendant working for major international carriers. And in this video, I will reveal 17 secrets we are never allowed to tell passengers, the ones that change everything once you know them. Before we dive in, drop a comment below with where you are flying from and where you wish you were headed right now. And hit that subscribe button, because I share insider flight secrets like these every week that the airlines absolutely do not want you to know. Most passengers believe that what they see on an airplane is what they get. The safety demonstration is complete. The food is what it appears to be. The aircraft is as clean as it looks. The rules they are told are the only rules that exist. But behind the professional smiles and pressed uniforms of every flight attendant standing at that boarding door is a mountain of information we are specifically trained to withhold. Not because we want to deceive you, but because the industry depends on passengers remaining comfortable, compliant, and unaware. I learned this the hard way during my very first year of flying. I was on a long-haul overnight flight when a passenger asked me a direct question about the water she was drinking. She was calm, polite, completely reasonable, and I froze because I knew the answer. And I also knew that telling her would violate 3 different pieces of guidance I had received in training. That moment changed how I saw this industry forever. Deep surface sanitation of individual tray tables simply does not happen consistently. A passenger I will call James, a business traveler who flew 3 times per week for years, once told me he had watched a mother change her baby's diaper directly on the tray table during a flight. He never ate off a tray table again. Independent studies have found fecal bacteria, influenza virus particles, and MRSA on aircraft tray tables. These surfaces are handled by hundreds of different passengers across multiple flights. They are touched, coughed on, sneezed near, and occasionally used for purposes that would make most people deeply uncomfortable. Always carry antibacterial wipes in your carry-on. Wipe your tray table before you use it, every single time, on every single flight. This is not paranoia. This is what every experienced flight attendant does for their own family when they travel as passengers. When you watch the safety demonstration and the flight attendant explains the oxygen mask dropping from above, most passengers assume those masks provide unlimited oxygen for the duration of any emergency. They do not. The chemical oxygen generators connected to those masks provide approximately 12 to 15 minutes of oxygen. That is it. This is not a flaw in the system. It is intentional design. The reasoning is that 15 minutes is sufficient time for the pilots to descend to an altitude where breathable air is available. But here is what the demonstration never tells you clearly. Those 15 minutes begin the moment the mask activates. Every second you spend confused, panicking, or helping others before securing your own mask is a second of that 15 minutes disappearing. This is why we are absolutely relentless about one instruction during every safety demonstration. Secure your own mask before assisting others. This is not selfishness. This is survival mathematics. At altitude, hypoxia, oxygen deprivation, causes confusion and unconsciousness faster than most people imagine. You have roughly 30 to 60 seconds of useful consciousness at cruising altitude without oxygen. If you lose consciousness before your mask is on, you cannot help anyone. Knowing this changes how seriously you watch that safety demonstration every single time. Beverage requests, pillow adjustments, extra snack bags. And we handle all of those things graciously. But here is what our training actually consists of. We spend the majority of our preparation learning emergency evacuation procedures, firefighting techniques, cardiac emergency response, decompression event management, and water ditching survival protocols. The food service component of our training is comparatively minor. A colleague of mine named Rebecca had been flying for 8 years when she performed hands-on CPR on a passenger for 22 minutes during a transatlantic flight until they could divert and land. She had never once in 8 years been specifically trained to remember which passengers preferred window or aisle seats. But she had been trained repeatedly, relentlessly, and in exhaustive detail on exactly how to keep that passenger alive. When you see a flight attendant smiling and handing you a ginger ale, understand that behind that smile is a person trained to manage a cabin fire, coordinate a rapid evacuation of 300 panicking people, and deliver a baby at 35,000 feet, if necessary. Passengers consistently pay premiums for front-of-cabin seating, business class, first class, bulkhead rows. They assume proximity to the exit, and premium positioning means better safety outcomes. Aviation safety data tells a more complicated story. Multiple independent analyses of survivable aircraft accidents have found that passengers seated in the rear third of the aircraft have statistically better survival rates than those seated at the front. Specifically, seats within 5 rows of an exit, regardless of cabin class, show the best outcomes in survivable crashes. This does not mean you should panic about your first-class upgrade. It means that when you choose your seat, knowing your exit row proximity matters more than your cabin class. Count the rows to the nearest exit every single time you board. Do this in the dark, because you may need to use that count when visibility is 0. This is a habit every flight attendant builds automatically. It should be yours too. Airlines have strict policies about serving alcohol to passengers who appear intoxicated. What most passengers do not know is that flight attendants are specifically trained to track cumulative alcohol consumption across the flight, not just individual drinks. We communicate between galley stations. We share notes. We know that the gentleman in 24C has had 4 drinks in 2 hours, even if each individual attendant who served him only brought 1. I had a passenger once, polite, well-dressed, completely coherent after 2 drinks, who I declined to serve a 3rd time. He was genuinely surprised. He had not realized I had been tracking. He became frustrated and mentioned he had barely drunk anything. I smiled and explained our policy without revealing how carefully we monitor. The real secret here is not that we cut passengers off. It is that we are far more coordinated and observant about it than passengers ever realize. The cabin crew operates as a single observational unit. I remember a flight where we experienced severe turbulence that injured 2 passengers. Before any of us could reach them, a man in row 14 was already kneeling beside them, calm and methodical. He was an emergency room nurse. I had noticed him during boarding, noted his calm efficiency as he stowed his bag, and mentally flagged him as someone who would be composed under pressure. I was right. When you board a flight, the crew is already quietly evaluating who among you they might need to call on. Being calm, attentive, and seated near an exit makes you part of the crew's silent emergency plan, whether you know it or not. This is the secret that I wish I could announce on the intercom during every bout of rough air. Turbulence is the #1 source of passenger fear and anxiety on flights. It causes white knuckles, hyperventilation, and genuine terror across cabins every single day. And here is the truth that airlines rarely communicate clearly enough. Turbulence has never caused a modern commercial aircraft to crash. Not once. Modern aircraft are engineered to withstand forces dramatically beyond anything encountered in normal or even severe turbulence. The wings flex intentionally. The airframe absorbs and distributes stress in ways that make structural failure from turbulence essentially impossible. The real danger from turbulence is entirely different. It is unsecured passengers and objects becoming projectiles inside the cabin. Flight attendants are injured by turbulence more than any other occupational hazard in aviation, almost always because we are moving through the cabin when unexpected turbulence hits. The seatbelt sign exists to protect you from the only real turbulence risk, which is impact injury inside the cabin. When that light is on, keep your seatbelt fastened. When it is off, keep it loosely fastened anyway. This is exactly what every flight attendant does whenever we are seated. On commercial flights, the captain and first officer are served different meals from different sources. This is a deliberate safety protocol that almost no passenger is ever told about. The reasoning is straightforward. If a food contamination event occurred and both pilots became simultaneously incapacitated, the consequences would be catastrophic. By ensuring pilots eat different meals from different preparation batches, airlines reduce the probability of simultaneous food poisoning affecting the entire flight deck.